שלום יברומות, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו Amen.
Gareth has a particular interest in the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy. So I thought I would like to mention that once upon a time I ran for president. Not of the U.S., but of the rabbinical school at the Jewish Theological Seminary. There were only 100 eligible voters, so 51 were necessary for a plurality, and a buddy assured me you're a shoo-in, as long as you stage a proper campaign. And I turned to him and I said, a campaign? And he said, you'll see. And one early evening, he knocked at my door at the dormitory and he said, tonight is the night. I said, the night for what? He said, the campaign. So he brought me out onto Broadway, and we entered a cab, and the cab deposited us precisely at the corner of 96th Street and West End Avenue, where once upon a time there was a resident hotel, the Windermere. Not very fancy, but pretty balabakish for the 60s. The front clerk was a colbo at the hotel. He did everything. He attended the switchboard. He presented you your key. He registered you. He even showed you to your room initially. So we took a room. $12 for the night, you can imagine. And that room became my campaign headquarters. But the desk clerk didn't count on us because as soon as we registered, the switchboard began to light up, for my buddy phoned each and every rabbinical student, inviting them in clusters or individually to visit our campaign headquarters. And pretty soon a cabbie pulled up with the delivery of a deli platter. And so all evening long, rabbinical students were walking in and out, and the front desk clerk was quite wearied to keep track of them all. 11 o'clock, we showed up at the front desk again. And we handed him the key, and he said, what now? And we told him, we're checking out. He said, you're not going to bother to stay the night? We said no. We had opened our campaign headquarters, and now they were closed. They had accomplished their purpose. I was elected. But what was the platform? It was Rosh Chodesh. It had to do with the first of the Hebrew calendar month. I made a pledge to negotiate with the faculty that Rosh Chodesh, whenever it would occur, the first class of the day would be canceled. In its place, we would daven together and enjoy a gourmet breakfast, and then a first-class program attending to our practical needs. Who of us has a true attachment to the Chodesh, the first of the Hebrew calendar month? And yet the Torah Gareth is about to plow through reveals Tzav et b'nei Yisrael et korbani lachmi. Impress it on corporate Israel. The bread is to be the epicenter of the cultic order. Nothing happens for anybody without the staple, the lechem, the bread. Imagine topping the holiday list of stipulations, the bread on the Rosh Chodesh occasion. In his book, Saul Friedlander, When Memory Comes, he talks about in 1977 he attended a 25th anniversary in Israel of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. There were lots of reminiscences. And one night, one of the escapees searches his head and says, I remember one night at the Warsaw Ghetto. Night had fallen, and the curfew had sounded, and the street below was deserted. And I was sitting in front of a table with a kerosene lamp, and on the table was a crust of bread. And I deliberated in my own mind, was I going to eat the bread tonight, Or was I going to stash it away for tomorrow? Then all of a sudden, outdoors, I heard a faint, unintelligible, but persistent cry. A shtickel Bräut. A shtickel Bräut. And I ran over to the window. And there, silhouetted on the pavement below, was a little boy. And so I ran back to the table, and I retrieved the bread, and I ran back to the window, and I chucked the bread below. To this day, I don't know. Did the boy eat it and survive? Or did the boy never make it? But I always remember lechem, the bread. Nothing can happen for anybody if not for the bread. The bread that was the epicenter of the cultic order. Always featured prominent in front of the altar. Rosh Chodesh occasion reminds us of the stipulation. But this isn't any Chodesh. It isn't any month. After all, it is the preamble to Rosh Hashanah, 4 weeks from tonight, the new year. So a little later, we are going to listen to the first shofarot, Tekiah, Shivarim, Teruah, every single weekday morning until the morning before the new year. We hear the sounds, a reminder that the unconscionable should become impossible. We hear so much about the character issue as Bush and Clinton tried to tear each other apart. Whatever happened to conscience? During the Bush administration, John Tower, who no longer is among the living, was nominated for a cabinet position. The Democrats made up their minds. It was the last thing they would ever do. Tower would not sit in the cabinet. So they raised allegations about a womanizer and a lush. And in the midst of the torrid Senate debate, Senator Christopher Dodd, a Democrat from Connecticut, rose to his feet. And this is what he said. 22 years ago, my father, Thomas Dodd, a senator, was accused of alleged financial irregularity. In that debate, 22 years ago, one soul, a Republican by the name of John Tower, rose to his defense. He felt he should get a fair shake. So he said the Dodds never forget a favor and always pay their debts. And 22 years later, I will break ranks with the Democratic Party and I will vote for Tower. To me, to do otherwise, I could not live with my conscience. So there is the Chodesh. Nothing can happen for anybody if not for the bread. The unconscionable should become the impossible. And then the name of the month is Elul. We begin today. And you know what the authorities make of it? Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed. They relate it to a passage, Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li. I belong to my beloved, and my beloved belongs to me. This ought to be the month of reconciliation. You know, the woman, she goes to her lawyer and she says, I want to divorce my husband. And the divorce says to the lady, but do you have grounds? She says, yes, half an acre. Do you have a grudge? She said, no, I have a carport. Does he beat you up? She said, no, I'm up earlier than he is in the morning. Finally, the lawyer, frustrated, looks at the lady and says, my God, why do you want a divorce? And she said, because he doesn't understand me. Reconciliation comes first with self-understanding. Likutei Eitzot. A medieval commentary suggests that during the month of Elul before Rosh Hashanah, a person should make it a point to be alone part of the day. Before you reconcile with the world, you have to reconcile with yourself. Several weeks ago in Florida, it was getting dark on one Sunday, and mutual acquaintances introduced me to a lady. And then they left the scene, and she began to open up. I detected a German accent, and I suspected that she wasn't Jewish, although it didn't matter. And she revealed she had spent time in a concentration camp, and as a DP she had met a Russian DP, and they had gotten married more than 45 years ago. She said, "I suppose I should be grateful that I am alive after all that I have encountered." But she said, a year and a half ago I sank into a deep, deep depression, and nobody could help me, no physician and no psychiatrist and no medication. And I realized I had to do it myself. So she said, after 45 years, I moved out of the house, and I got my own apartment. I had to reconcile with me before I could reconcile with the world. And people who knew me before a year and a half ago, and the same people who know me now, tell me I am a different me than they have ever observed. Because before I was layered, I was not able to understand who I was. Now that I am alone, I have a better chance at reconciling with the rest of the world. And so that is Rosh Chodesh, our attachment to this occasion most of us rarely experience but for a morning like this. The bread, without which nothing can happen for anybody. The conscience, nobody can do without. And then the reconciliation within before we face and reconcile with the world without. With that, we turn to some of Garrett's big moments in the Torah service as we rise, page 187.
Vayehi ben Esoa Aharon, Vayomem Moshe, Kumadonai v'chutzu oivecha, v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, li'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Adonai hitihi, unramamah shemo yachdav.